Collin Klein is going to make or break this season for Texas A&M.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down and the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, the baseball season did come to a painful end. We will discuss that at the tail end of the show today. But first, I want to start with a little bit of a discussion about Collin Klein. And, we've talked about what I call the Collin Klein effect. And, that is, if you look at the numbers last year for Kansas State when it comes to how many yards they picked up on first down, third down conversions, scoring touchdowns in the red zone, Coach Klein had an elite offense. It was working well. And, I think he's going to come to Texas A&M, and as I have made very clear over these last handful of months, I think he's going to be an elite offensive coordinator. So now the issue here, I think that as a whole, and tell me if you disagree, but I think we all feel pretty confident in this Texas A&M defense, right? I think we feel really good about the linebackers, the defensive line. And honestly, every day that goes by, I start to feel a little bit more confident in the secondary. Just and I've discussed not every position on the field is going to be elite. But you need every, to compete, to be a really good football team, you need every position to be competitive, to be solid, not elite, solid. You can have some elite positions. This Texas A&M defensive line is going to be elite. I think that the linebackers are going to be solid. If the secondary is just good to solid, your defense is going to be incredible. So, knowing how good we believe this defense is going to be, which, as I've said, I think this is going to be an elite defense. You've got great coaches at positions. You obviously Coach Elko's defensive mind. You have an all-around great defensive staff, and I think you did a great job recruiting players in the portal in high school. So this is an all-around great defense. And so, when you have a great defense, your offense just needs to be good. Once again, I mean, this offense doesn't need to be elite for Texas A&M to win 8 football games, potentially 9. Now, if it is really good, if it's better than we expect, which I think is very possible, and I'll explain why here in a minute, that is when you talk about having a season where you truly exceed expectations. And, with the weapons you have, I think this offense is pure upside. Now, obviously, we have the concern, which is the offensive line. And that is the concern, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be honest. The offensive line, if the offensive line is good, I believe this offense can exceed expectations. If this offensive line is bad, I believe it's going to be tough for this offense to move the football and score touchdowns. Looking at this offensive line, I think there's 2 or 3 combinations, which we've discussed, I think late last week, I believe, but that you can go with that make a ton of sense for this offensive line as a whole. And I think that this team is going to play really well together, but you need this unit to be good. If the offensive line isn't good, once again, and you hate that being the reality, but if your offensive line isn't good, your offense isn't going to be that good. That's just reality. They create everything. They create time for your quarterback to find receivers, time for the receivers to get downfield, get open, holes for the running back. I mean, they do literally everything. So, the rest of the offense, though, if the offensive line is serviceable, which I believe it will be. Once again, I'm not saying elite. I think that the secondary has a better chance of being, a really good unit compared to the offensive line. But I think if the offensive line is, once again, serviceable, that this offense is going to be really good. I think, so when I talk about Collin Klein making the difference, I just think he's such a good play caller that he personally is going to elevate this offense to a level that maybe no one's expecting it to go to. Now, I did a show with a Locked On South Carolina host the other day, and he used a great term to describe Connor Wigman, which was the best kept secret in college football. I think that's a truly great way to describe Connor Wigman. We have discussed time and time again, Connor Wigman has a legit chance to hit and be an incredible player in college football for the Aggies. He can be really good this season. And a lot of that is going to come down to Coach Klein and the play calling. I mean, a quarterback is only as good as the plays called for him. And then obviously as his running backs and receiver. Excuse me. As his running backs, receivers, tight ends, offensive line. But, I think that the skill position players, your receivers, running backs, and tight ends are going to be really good. I think that they're going to elevate Connor Wigman. Now, once again, the only concern I have, and I've voiced this many times, some disagree, and that's fair. The only issue I have with this offense when it comes to skill position players, my concern is a receiver going to be that guy, the wide receiver one? That's my only concern there. And I don't think, I believe that it'll happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I think you need to see that happen. You got to have someone take over as the guy, and then, a couple wide receiver 2s and 3s. But, Coach Klein is going to make the difference. I think that if he is able to elevate this offense, which, go back and click on the episode of Locked On Aggies a month, maybe 2 months ago, where it was called, the Collin Klein effect. And those numbers are legit. When you look at Collin Klein and what he did at Kansas State last year, his numbers were incredible. They scored touchdowns in the red zone. You got to remember, like we talked about this a lot last year, Texas A&M, they were kicking field goals in the red zone, while Kansas State was scoring touchdowns. One of the best numbers in all college football at doing that. And that stuff matters. They were moving the football on first down. They were converting third downs. They were doing exactly what you have to do to score points and be a successful offense. So I don't see why Coach Klein will have any issue bringing that over to Texas A&M. I think he has better weapons. I mean, you look, obviously they had Sanat last year at Kansas State. I believe he went in the second round. I keep forgetting what team he went to. He's probably a good dynasty fantasy football guy, but I forget what team he ended up going to. But, a great player there, but, Texas A&M, these running backs you've got, I think Donovan Green is just as good of a tight end as Sanat is. And then you've got Moose and Noah Thomas and Jay Walker playing receiver. This is an elite offensive skill set of players, offensive skill players. And, I think that they're going to elevate Connor Wigman to where Connor Wigman can have the season where he ends up being a top 5, maybe perhaps top 3 quarterback in the conference. And if that happens, if this offense does any of that, if this offense clicks, if this offense hits, I believe Texas A&M wins 9 football games because I am very confident in the defense. As I have said time and time again, I have so much confidence in this defense. I don't think it's going to struggle. I think that the secondary is going to be a lot better. I'm really starting to buy into that. I really am. So with how good I believe these linebackers, which we'll talk about in a minute, and defensive line are going to be, I think that looking at this team, I think that if the offense is good, you can win 9 football games. And I believe the key to doing that is going to be Collin Klein being as good as advertised, as good as I've sit here and advertised him to be. I mean, the numbers don't lie on him. I think he's going to be great, but it's, once again, we can sit here and talk about it all we want. You got to see it happen. But, I think that he's going to elevate these skill position players. I think he's going to elevate Connor Wigman. I'm hoping that Coach Cushing's going to help with this offensive line, and we're going to get this unit looking good and playing good football. But if all that happens and Texas A&M hits on offense, this team can win 9 football games. But I do believe the difference is going to be Collin Klein. If he ends up not being as good as advertised, it's going to cost you a couple wins. But if he's as good as advertised, this Texas A&M team can overachieve, I think, by a win, definitely by a win. So, I think the Collin Klein effect is going to be real for the Aggies, and I can't wait to see how good he ends up being as an offensive coordinator because I think he's going to be elite. We're going to talk about a linebacker depth chart. It's a conversation we've had a ton here at Locked On Aggies. We've talked about who's going to be that second linebacker next to York, and I think that someone is starting to separate themselves as that player. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But the playoffs have winded down. We get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. Ton of stuff still going on. You got MLB baseball going on. I love every time I go to a baseball game, I love to make a parlay on FanDuel. It just makes it more fun. Hockey obviously is over, ended last night. Congrats to the Florida Panthers. The Celtics won the NBA. But listen, those two things ending mean we're getting closer to football, ladies and gentlemen. And as you know, I couldn't be more excited. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about this linebacker depth chart. Came out from Aggie's Wire. And, I think it's a great list. It gives you pretty much a 3 deep, even a 4 deep at the weak side linebacker. But, I think this is a great article. You're going to have York at your one linebacker. No, listen, we're not going to sit here and argue that. We know that Taurean York is going to be the guy. Starting there at your middle linebacker, he's going to have such a good season. I still don't think Taurean York is getting the hype that he should be getting ahead of the season. I think that he is going to have just an all-around incredible season. And then I think heading into his junior year, I think he's a top 3 linebacker in all of college football. So, York, I believe he's going to be an NFL player. I don't think there's much debate that needs to happen there. But so obviously no surprise here. You got York there. In the 2 deep is freshman Tristan Jernigan. Now, Jernigan is a player who I don't believe is going to have much trouble adjusting to the speed of college football. He has the frame for it. He seems like a super high IQ football player. And, Jernigan was a player that there were some teams trying to make a run at him, some schools. And, of course, Coach Elko was able to hold on. He stays with Texas A&M. That was a stressful one because, we really wanted this kid. He's a special player. So he's here in the 2 deep, and I'm not upset about it at all. He does in some ways remind me of Taurean York. And I know that's going to become the cliche about Texas A&M linebackers, when we talk about maybe could this guy play as a freshman. But, Jernigan, he's got that frame. He's got that build. He's got that football IQ. The film's incredible out of high school. I think that Jernigan has everything you need a freshman linebacker to have confidence that, hey, this guy can play as a freshman. So I'm very confident in Tristan Jernigan, his ability to get on the field early. And, I think if Taurean York were to go down with an injury and Jernigan does end up being the backup, are you going to be getting the same level of play as York? No, you're not. And that's obviously no surprise, no secret. But I still think that Jernigan is going to be a solid player. And while you would see a drop off, I don't think you would see a drop off of a mountain. You know what I mean? I think it would be a drop off, but not this huge drop off where you go, oh, we're done for. Our linebackers are awful. And then in the 3 deep, we got Martrell Harris Jr., a player, a lot to prove here. If you're Harris Jr. and you do end up behind a freshman in the depth chart, you're probably not feeling great about where you're at, but just a player that, once again, we talk about the word depth. It is everything, and he is a solid depth piece. He is a player that gives you that, okay, if we lose a couple guys, he can come in and he can play solid football for us. He's been around, he'll play a little bit here. I think that's a solid player to have in your 3 deep that makes you feel a lot better about the room as a whole. So then at weak side linebacker, Aggies Wire has the starter listed as Solomon DeShields. And I have seen the Pitt transfer. I have seen this trend come up more, and I think that I'm starting to buy into it as well. Once again, everything you want in a transfer at a position like this: experience, played a ton of snaps. That is exactly what you're looking for when you go get a transfer like this. So, I don't think you're going to see, him have a ton of struggles switching over to the SEC from the ACC. Obviously, I think there'll be a little bit of hey, welcome to the SEC moment for DeShields. But just watching film on him, he's a good player. He's a sound football player. He makes the right decision. I think he's going to be a really good linebacker for the Aggies. And he is exactly what you're looking for in the transfer portal. A player who's going to come in. I don't know what the eligibility looks like there. I don't know. He either has one or best case or 1 or 2 more years. I need to look that up. But but once again, regardless, it's a perfect addition because he is a player who comes in, and whether it's 1 year or 2 year, he gives you depth. He gives you veteran leadership. He's going to be out there. He's a guy who has played a lot of snaps. This is what the portal's for. It is finding holes in your team and filling them with veteran players. That's exactly what you're trying to do in the portal, and DeShields is a great example of that. They have listed as the in the 2 deep Damian Sanford, and once again, we saw a lot of good stuff from Damian Sanford in the spring game. He made a couple plays where you go, man, look at that. And another player, I would say on a level above Martrell Harris Jr., but like another player where it's like, hey, he adds a ton of elite depth to this roster. And that's what you're looking for. You are looking for more guys that just make this team better and make you feel better if you were to lose somebody to an injury. So I think that Sanford is a player that can play relevant snaps and can really be a good player for this team. I believe that after watching him in the spring game, and we'd heard good things at spring practice, and then you saw it at the spring game. And that's what gave me confidence. Okay, he's going to be a real piece for this team. And then in the 3 deep, it is Scooby Williams, who the Florida transfer, who I thought was going to be a starter for a while, but now everything seems to be shifting toward Solomon DeShields. But once again, Scooby Williams, highly ranked guy out of high school. He is still a player where I still do believe that there is an upside there. I still believe that he has untapped talent that hopefully this coaching staff can get out of him. I believe all of it. I think that he's a really good football player, and I still think his time is going to come, whether it's this year, whether it's later, whatever it is. I believe in Scooby Williams, and I think that if this coaching staff can get it out of him, we know the talent he possesses. He has the frame. He has everything needed to be an elite player. So, that's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. But, I still think that all 3 of these guys, DeShields, Sanford, and Williams, are going to make a run at this starting role. So while I do think DeShields has a leg up at the moment, don't be surprised if Scooby Williams makes a run at the starting job for the Aggies. So that will be interesting. All right. As much as I don't want to, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the baseball game. We'll talk about it coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. So the Aggies lose the final game of the season to the Tennessee Volunteers. 6-5. Before we get into the game and where do we go from here, proud of this team. I mean, really, really proud of this team. Congrats to Tennessee. Both of these teams were looking for their first. Tennessee got it. Congrats to them. I know that some people aren't a huge fan of Vitello, and he does some things that I don't love, but I love the whole putting the chairs down, making his team stand up and cheer. So congrats to Tennessee. Painful way to lose. And you don't want to play the what if game, but man, I think Shane Sado would have made such a difference in that series, having another guy out there who could have given you a chunk of innings. Obviously, what else you were missing. Not making excuses, just I wish this team could have played this. You could have had your whole team. And not to say Tennessee did. I mean, I'm not trying to make that excuse. I really wish you would have had that extra pitching more than anything, because you just kind of, I think at the end, Eschenbeck kind of just ran out of gas. He went 3 innings, give up 6 hits, 3 earned runs. Those 3 earned runs. It's not on Eschenbeck. I think that he ran out of gas, and the Aggies lose this game 6-5. Proud of this team for making a push in the eighth and ninth, scoring a couple runs in each to try and get back in this game. You had the tying run at the plate at one point. Just proud of this team. Really, genuinely, truly proud of this team. Hate the way it has to end, but I'm really proud of this baseball team. They brought me, all y'all, so much joy over these last 3-4 months. I knew they could do it, and they were so close. But I'll tell you one thing: the Aggies will be back. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Coach Sloss. I'll tell you this. I'll be honest with you. We talk about this all the time. I think fan bases. I saw Coach Sloss's post game, statements when it comes to he's happy at Texas A&M. He planned on this being his last job. Don't want to go anywhere. I told fan bases all the time when I was doing the coaching stuff search about the football, a couple months ago, and fan bases would come and say, "No, he's not going to leave. It's never going to happen." I just go, well, you never know. I don't believe Coach Sloss is going to leave. I don't believe he's going to. But I'm going to be honest, I do have a little bit of concern. Just because here's the deal. You got to remember it like this. In his post-game press conference, he's not going to sit there and go, "Yeah, I'm leaving." He's not going to say that. He's obviously going to wait it out and see what happens and make a decision. So it'll be interesting. I believe he'll stick around at Texas A&M, but you just never know. But once again, just proud of this team. So proud of these players. You had a lot of freshmen out there. You had a lot of these transfers, Shot and Pell. It's just thank you to all these players, to these parents, to these families, to this coaching staff, to everybody that helped put this season together. It was a joy to be around. It was a joy to watch. Proud of everybody involved in this program. And once again, I don't think this baseball program is going anywhere. I think Coach Loss is gonna reload, rebuild, and we'll be right back here next year. But proud of this team. Everybody, truly, thank you for all these memories to this baseball team. And I'm excited for next season to see how it works out for the Aggies. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Really, really appreciate it. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their day today, and we will see you tomorrow.